Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel Barit Vlogs. I hope you all are doing fine. So I completed my North India ride this Jan and I thought I'll share my experiences and also the budget that went along in this ride. So let's start the video. So before we can proceed ahead with the experiences that I had on the trip, let's first wrap up the budget part that went into the trip and then we'll proceed with the experiences. So I prepared this decent Excel for my reference after I came back from the trip. So you can see that the whole cost of the trip came up till 30,361. So this was the cost of the ride, which included the food, the stay and also the fuel. It also included the miscellaneous expense of the battery that I replaced in Ajmer. So I divided this whole thing. So this budget is restricted only to my way of riding and it's related to standard 500 bullet, and since the odometer was not functioning well, I couldn't track the kilometers, but this is the distance that I just tracked down with Google Maps. But according to me the bike went around 4,500 kilometers. So the total fuel consumption that the bike took was 172 liters and the average mileage that I got on the bike was 26.1 kilometers per liter of fuel. So I was riding fast. I was riding at speed of 100, 120 and even sometimes 130 kilometer per hour speed. And the average that I kept was 100 kilometer per hour. So that's a decent mileage that we get on a 500cc bike. And I've also divided the expense on a day-to-day basis on this column here. So this is daily total of day 1, day 2, day 3 and so on. So anybody who plans on visiting northern India or maybe the central or western part of India, you can expect that you can have this much of expense if you're traveling solo. Now this might depend on the kind of rooms that you take, the kind of food or luxury that you want to enjoy, or if you want to do a budget trip. I'm not an expert in solo traveling, but it was a good experience traveling solo for the first time ever. I hope to travel further in the coming future, maybe solo or with a group of people or probably with some other individual. So some of the things that I think I could have avoided or which could have not been done and the ride could have been more efficient is that the first stay or the first point of stay in this whole trip. So I stayed in Hyderabad for 4 nights. So I stayed there for a long time that was not required. Hyderabad is a place that I had visited thrice. So there was no point staying there for 3 days. But I still wanted to explore Hyderabad more alone as per my convenience, because the rest of the 3 or 4 times that I visited Hyderabad was with family. But after I finished Hyderabad, I thought that staying there for 3 days was not required, because it had taken a toll on my health because of all the food that I had there and there was less physical activity that I did. So what I've learned is, in the initial days of the journey, especially if you are traveling solo, it is suggested that we try to go as far away as possible from home, especially if you are traveling from south to north. I could have taken the route from Bangalore to Pune and then Mumbai, then Gujarat and then Ajmer. In that way I could have saved a lot of days and then I could have traveled further to New Delhi and Amritsar as well, because back then the weather was good. By the time I reached there it was too late and it was raining. So I couldn't make it to New Delhi and Amritsar. So I think that part of the journey I couldn't complete. Otherwise I could have completed it. But since this was the first time, I think good and bad is always the part of experience that we do. So I'm gonna keep that in mind for my next trip. So the second thing that I learned is that we need to have a proper baggage system when we are traveling by a motorcycle. So this time around I just had a backpack and I had a rucksack which I tied on my back seat with 2 bungee cords which were not sufficient. And even before I could go out of Bangalore, I faced this problem of the luggage being sliding down again and again. And that happened on multiple occasions on the whole journey. I could have used an additional bungee cord because I didn't have that kind of experience, so I had only 2 bungee cords, they were not sufficient. But the point is, I don't think a rucksack and a backpack is sufficient if you're traveling by motorcycle, because what happened was that I had my laptop in the rucksack, which was facing downwards on the rucksack. So when I was tying the bungee cord, it put some pressure on the laptop, and the display of the laptop is bearing some mark now that I don't think is repairable. But I had to carry laptop because I thought I'll edit the videos and I'll be able to transfer the data from all the electronic devices that I carried. So the next time I plan a ride, I have thought of buying saddlebag system, or I'll be going for panniers. If I had traveled to Delhi this time, I had plans of getting the Ladakh carrier on the bike and also the saddlebags, because it's way cheaper there, and I don't think you get anywhere here in Bangalore. And even if you get it, I saw the Ladakh carrier in one of the automobile shops. The gauge was not so good. The metal gauge was not up to the mark, but still it costed around 2,500. That was the price the shopkeeper quoted, so that wasn't making any sense to purchase. So till I get the whole Ladakh carrier, I'm gonna have this saddlebag system, because the saddlebag also fixes quite appropriately on the Ladakh carrier. So I'll get that. There weren't any problems in the bike on the whole ride, except for battery replacement and also the clutch lever that cut off, which I think was a valid thing, and the battery had to be replaced, and the clutch nut was something that nobody was able to fix it, so there wasn't any rectification for that. But apart from that, I didn't face any issue with the bike. The only thing that I realized was I didn't have the need to drive so fast. I maintained an average of 100 kilometers per hour. I exceeded the speed up till 140 in few of the instances, due to which the whole mileage of the bike dropped down drastically. I've realized that Bullet is meant to be touring. It needs to be touring on a constant speed, not riding too fast. There's no problem in riding fast. Even if I ride the bike at 120 or 130 for the whole day, it's not gonna give any problem, because the bike is designed in such a way that it can keep touring continuously, even if you are not going to give the bike any rest. But I thought that cruising at 80 or 90 would be sufficient, because there was not much time that I saved riding fast. Probably 2 or 3 hours per day is what I saved, but it hit me a lot on the fuel. So I've realized that I can tour on the bike at 80, 90, save the fuel, and at the same time I can reach the destination on time. So it shouldn't be a problem, and it gives a kind of pleasure when you are actually touring on the bike at lesser speeds rather than riding fast. Riding fast also, it doesn't create a lot of vibration because this is a 500cc bike. The 350 bikes usually create a lot of vibration after they cross a speed of 80. So that was for BS3 bikes. I have heard that BS4 and BS6 bikes are way too smooth and there is not much vibration. But as far as BS3 bikes are concerned, I think for 500cc bike, the bike does not vibrate as much as the other bikes. But still, there were a few nuts and bolts that went loose while I was on the way to Bangalore after completing the whole trip on the last day. So the next time I'm going on a trip, I'll make sure that I'm touring leisurely and I have all the time in hand so I can travel at my own convenience. So another thing is, I realized that I wasn't enjoying the ride much. I didn't give many stops on any of the days that I traveled. I had an urgency of reaching my destination before sunset. There were many factors for doing that. Because I was traveling alone, I didn't want to ride after sunset. But that somewhere reduced the joy of riding. I couldn't take many stops. And since I was traveling solo, and many of the places that I was traveling were very remote. On the way, when I came back from the route to Chittorgarh, it was all a hilly area and it was all ghat section, and for kilometers, stretches of kilometers, there were nobody, not even an animal or a bird. It was all a deserted place. So every time I started my ride and came across such places, the only thing I wanted to do was to rush through those places. I could have stopped there and enjoyed that void in the environment, but somewhere since this was my first time, I only wanted to rush towards my destination. So that's one thing that should have been avoided. And the next thing, food. I mean, I'm a foodie and I ate a hell lot of food, when I was in Hyderabad. I had a lot of problem after having that spicy food, but still I had it because you don't get to eat that kind of cuisine every day. So when you are there in anywhere in Hyderabad, any place in Andhra or Telangana, do try the local cuisine. Not only in that specific state, any place for that matter, please do try the local cuisine rather than preferring dosa or idli, because today you get dosa idli anywhere in India. Even in the northern parts of India, we get idli and dosa. But I mainly concentrated on trying the local cuisines wherever I traveled. So I didn't limit myself to food. So I also had some health problems. So I should have avoided or limited the quantity of food that I was having. So many a times it may happen that we may not like the food of other places. For example, when I was traveling north, when I was in Ajmer, I didn't like the kind of food they had there. For example, I had the local cuisine. They had this badam milk, they have this jalebi, they have this pakodi and all sorts of things that was made out of besan. And they consume a lot of green chili is what I observed. That doesn't go well with us. I mean, people from Bangalore do understand that we don't eat much spicy food. So sometimes it may happen that you may not like the food, or even on the way when I was traveling I stopped at random dhabas to just have my lunch or breakfast. I didn't like the food so much because it had too much of masala and oil. So the next time when I travel, I'm gonna have some stock of food with me. I'll have a backup of a complete different section of food. It can be biscuits, it can be a bread, jam, butter, anything that can just give me a decent meal at that point of time. That's really required. So anybody who wants to travel solo or in a group, especially on a motorcycle, please carry something that can go good with your stomach, that should suit your taste, because not required that you will like the food that you're having in other states or other places for that matter. So that's one thing that I realized. Though you get fruits and the taste differs completely. The guava that I had in Ajmer, the taste was completely different from what we have here in South India. Even the oranges, when I had them on my way to Bhopal, the taste was completely different. So I enjoyed that. So fruits is something that it's actually required on the trip. The rest is according to your taste of what you want to eat and how you want to go ahead with the trip. So since I was doing a budget trip, after I ended the trip, I realized that it was not a budget trip. I had spent lavishly on the whole trip. So the cost of the trip came across 30,000. It could have been close to 22 or 25,000 if I had managed things in a proper way, or even if I had decided to do camping at places where I could. But I didn't carry those kind of gears with me, so I chose to stay in hotels. And the weather is too cold at this point of time in northern India, so camping was out of question. And camping is something that you can do at hilly areas or probably rivers or the sea, a beach or kind of thing. But since I was traveling on highways all the time, most of the time, I don't think there could have been any option of pitching up a tent somewhere and doing camping stuff. So the hotels took some amount of money. Then since I was alone, it costed me a bit expensive. Had we been two people, it could have been shared and it could have been economical. Another important aspect of rooms, as per my experience goes, I was staying in Oyo rooms all the time. Almost all the stays that I did was on Oyo, though they were all Oyo affiliated hotels. It was only in Ajmer and Koppal that I booked my rooms through Make My Trip. Otherwise, all the places that I stayed was through Oyo. One of the major problems that I faced in Maharashtra and then Madhya Pradesh was that if you make a booking and you are not paying the money after you reach the hotel, your booking was simply cancelled by the hotel staff. I'm not sure why, but it happened twice. When I went to Nagpur, the hotel owner told me that Oyo is not paying them money appropriately at the right time. Even though the guests were making payments online to Oyo, Oyo was not providing that amount to the hotels. So that is what I heard. That is what I was told on multiple places. So when I reached Nagpur, the hotel owner told me this, but he did provide me a check-in. But this hotel in Ratlam, the hotel name is Hotel Prince Palace. This was also affiliated with Oyo. So when I was in Ajmer, and one day before I left Ajmer, I booked my hotel room in Ratlam. The first hotel that I booked was on the highway. I believe the hotel name was Asharam Residency or Asharam Hotel. I'm not sure about the name right now. I booked my room with them. After a few hours, they cancelled the booking. So Oyo provided me another hotel. The name of the hotel was Hotel Prince Palace. This was in Ratlam city. And when I reached there, the weather was too cold. I reached Ratlam by 10:40 at night, and I was shivering with cold. And when I entered the hotel owner declined me check-in. He straight away told me that he cannot provide me check-in because I made payment online to Oyo, and Oyo, since they are not paying the hotel the required amount that they should be paying, all the hotels in Ratlam have prohibited online payments, and they are not allowing any guests who do an online payment. So I tried reaching Oyo staff. I even requested them on the app that I have been declined check-in. Now Oyo suggested that I go for a different hotel, but this was the third time that I would have been provided a different hotel. And 10:40 at night with such low degree temperatures where I was shivering, it was not feasible for me to travel, to go and keep searching the hotels, moving from one place to another, because I knew that in Ratlam none of the Oyos affiliated to Oyo were providing check-in if we make online payment. So this Hotel Prince Palace owner, he took advantage of the situation, I believe. So I had paid 380 via Oyo online, but I desperately needed a room because I was not in a situation that I could roam about and get a different room for myself. So he told me that he'll give me the room, but I have to make him payment separately. I did agree for that. He told me to cancel the booking on Oyo, and I did cancel the booking on Oyo. The money was not refunded for me till date, even though I opened the ticket and I raised a concern. I've still not been returned back the payment. I had to cancel that booking, and when I tried paying the same amount through cash to the hotel owner, he declined that 387. He told me I need to pay him 650. So that was another problem for me, but he told me he'll provide me the room for 600 but not less than that. So I didn't have any other option, so I paid him 600. So he charged me rupees 30 for 1 liter of mineral water, which is just rupees 20. For sure this hotel is all about deceiving and munching money from the guests as much as possible. It's a shame. So that's one problem with Oyo. Please make sure that if you're a frequent traveler through Oyo, there are places where people are the hotel staff is not accepting online payments. So either reach the hotel and pay them cash, or please choose a different service provider. So that was it about my experiences on hotels. The next time if I travel with some other person or a group of people, I would prefer camping. So my next trip, probably I'll have all the camping gears and all proper luggage system when I'm traveling, so that I don't have to face all these problems.